Imagine you're 22 years old and your 19-year-old friend Bernie hands you a set of lyrics that he just wrote at the kitchen table over breakfast. And you take it to the piano, and in a very short amount of time, out comes one of the greatest songs of all time. Before we start, obviously we're talking about Elton John's Your Song. Elton John, who, by the way, somehow, again, like so many of the artists that we visited this month during the month of music, where I'm posting daily videos of breakdowns of all sorts of your favorite songs, and somehow we've gone this entire time since I've been on YouTube and we haven't talked about Elton John. I don't understand how that's even possible, but it changes today because this song is just one of the most well-written songs with so much really concrete, fundamental harmony information going on, and a brilliant set of lyrics, and those lyrics set to a brilliant melody. Let's check it out. First of all, this has one of, again, the most iconic intros of all time. I've been looking around, in case you haven't noticed, I've been looking around at iconic piano intros, and I think this is up there with the best of them. Let's take a look at exactly how this one is constructed. Real simple, we have three chords. We have E flat major, we have A flat, but we're keeping our E flat in the bass. Anytime we keep a note in the bass, that's called a pedal tone. So we're keeping our pedal tone below there, and then we get one more chord, B flat major, still over E flat, and then we go back to the A flat. So there's really only three chords there. Now, what are those three chords? If we're in the key of E flat, it's real simple. This is the one chord, the A flat is the 4 chord, B flat is the 5 chord, back to the 4, 1, 4, 5, 4, 1. I mean, it doesn't get any more fundamental than that. And then what we're actually playing on the piano, I feel like maybe this started as somewhat improvisation for Elton, and then it just became concrete. I wonder how much very meticulous thought was given, because to me, this type of intro really feels like something that if somebody said, hey, just play me an intro, just play 1, 4, 5, 4, 1 with a pedal tone, and like, let's just do that. This feels like something you would play, because what it's really doing is all of that stuff is basically just outlining the chords. It's not just playing arpeggios. It's not like that, it's not straight up arpeggios, but we're just playing with the chord tones. This is a really good thing that you want to know how to do. Whenever you see chords like this and you say, okay, I want to play the chords. Well, I can play them as chords, right? In its very basic form, we'd be talking like root position triads. And that's fine, but the next evolution of that is to expand those into bigger chords. We're just using the same notes. I mean, this is using exactly the same 3 notes that make up the E flat major triad. E flat, G, and B flat, but we can spread those out. So I can play stuff like this. But the next evolution after that is to now take what you've played there and break it apart. Okay, now we can start messing with maybe things that sound a little more melodic, things that sound a little more like, you can get more rhythm out of it, right? And that kind of sounds like this. And that's without even adding any notes. I mean, if I started to add like 9s, right? So each chord now, instead of just having these 3 notes as the option, I give myself the 9 as well. You can see how that starts to give us more to work with. So if I go, so right there, we've not fundamentally changed the information that we're working with, but you can see how the different levels of sort of expanding upon your very starting point, which is just basic triads, you can arrive at something very similar to what Elton John played on this melody. So he chose to play it like this. And to get right into the verse. I mean, I think it's just an absolutely brilliant intro. But because of how I just described it could be constructed, I do wonder if maybe in the studio, somewhat improvised. And then it just became such a hit that he just wound up playing it the same way every time. And if you don't know, Elton John, when it comes to being a piano improviser, was one of the greatest. Growing up, I did not listen to him as much because I was so focused on jazz. And I don't know that I would call Elton John jazz, even in an improvisational context. But that doesn't mean that it's not exactly the same method of improvising. It's just maybe the sound is a little different. He's not necessarily gonna wind up playing something like... Although I bet he could. Not surprising, that's one of the greatest intros of all time. And then we're into it.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. I'm not one of those who can.
Oh, that chord is so sick right there.
Don't have
Ooh,
much
I love the use of that chord. Climbing up.
If I did,
right back to the one.
big house where we
4.
both could live.
Hang on, extra couple beats. Okay. This verse is just so good. And the one thing that you'll notice about it is I think there might be 2 exceptions in this entire song where we're using anything other than diatonic triads. Meaning we don't leave the key of E flat really at all, right? The diatonic triads are simply the 3-note chords that are made up when we exclusively use the notes of the home bass major scale. This is in the key of E flat, so we're calling that our home bass, which means we have these notes available. That bank of notes. So all we're gonna do is use only those notes and we're gonna build triads on every degree of the scale. And when we do, we wind up with these qualities: major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major. So there are 2 times in this entire song where we use anything that falls outside of those chords. Which just goes to show that it's not the complexity of the harmony. It's the way everything is constructed. Let's look at this verse. So we start on 1, go to the 4, and then I love this choice to use the 5 chord. Remember, the intro was 1, 4, 5. That's exactly what we're doing here, except we're not using the 5 with its root on the bottom. We're using the 5 with its 3rd on the bottom. And that changes the vibe entirely, especially considering that we're about to go to G minor. And what that does is it allows the root motion to become a 5-1. Almost as if we were gonna go to land on G minor. Obviously that's not the sound we get, but the root motion, it moves us in that direction. The connections are so great. 1 to the 4. Okay, here's another cool connection. When we go to the 4, when we go to this chord, that's a tritone. 1, 4, drop a tritone to play the 5 chord, but with a 3rd in the bass. Now that becomes almost like a 5-1 going to G minor, and that resolves to C minor. C minor, of course, is the relative minor of E flat. It is the key that shares the exact same key signature. The exact same sharps and flats are in E flat as are in C minor. Now we're gonna walk down, and this is the first chord we get that's outside of the diatonic realm. It's A half diminished or A minor 7 with a flat 5, okay? But we're simply using that kind of as a passing chord to get us down to that A flat, okay? And now I love this next change because we go back to the 1. However, we do not play the 1 with the root on the bottom. We play it with the 5th on the bottom. And anytime we do that, it signals to your brain, hey, this feels familiar. It feels almost like it's resolved. But there's something that's unresolved about it. And that is, of course, the mix-up in our ear of, well, I'm hearing the 1 chord, but I'm hearing the 5 as the root. The 5 is supposed to be very suspenseful, right? Normally a 5 chord has all this suspense built up in it so that it can resolve. But this is an interesting one. We get that satisfaction of the resolution going from the A flat to the E flat, but we know we're not done. It's just such a brilliant choice here. And then we immediately confirm that by going to the 5 chord, the proper 5 chord. And then our second chord that's outside of the diatonic realm and is one of the most brilliant, I think, of the entire song. Ugh. G major over B. Let me tell you why that one is so powerful. So it's G major, which already is outside of the key of E flat. But we're using it with its third in the bass because that creates a leading tone that's going to resolve to C minor. We're creating a 5-1 resolution, except we're doing it coming from 1/2 step away in the root. It's so good. But when we put it in the context of E flat, it's even better because listen to how powerful this movement is. This I feel like is it's very common, like gospel chord. It's very common anytime you want to get like a real sentimental kind of sound out of something. Right? So sometimes it might go to the 4, sometimes it might go to the C minor instead of the A flat. I mean, there's all kinds of different places you can go, but that chord just is such a powerful, emotional addition right there. So for us to use that to get from B flat as a passing chord and tone, leading to C minor, and then out of nowhere we just get a resolution, and we go 1, 2, 4, 5. How brilliant of a verse is this? And it's just the verse. 1 chord to the 4. Now we get the 5 over its third. G minor. Walk it down. Here's that A half diminished. Release to the A flat. Now we get resolved, but it's not resolved because it's the 5. And then climb up. C minor and then resolve. 1, 2, 4. Now this time around we resolve. I love how the ending phrase of the verse goes right back to the 1 and builds up to the 2 to the 4, finally to the 5. I feel like that whole thing is this emerging, kind of growing, brightening sound. The 2 is pretty dark, the 4 is still dark but less dark, it's getting brighter, and then finally we get the 5 chord, which is much brighter, right? And it releases, except for the second time around, we go 2, 4, and this time we release back to the 1. But then we get to the chorus.
And you can tell everybody this is your song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down in the words how wonderful life is while you're in the world.
Wow. What a song. Wow. I mean, just, it's hard not to get emotional listening to a song like this, you know? So this chorus, I gotta tell you, it is shockingly unconventional for something that sounds so consonant. It literally only uses, with the exception of 1, it only uses diatonic triads. It doesn't even leave the key of E flat at all. But our first chord is the 5 chord over its third. What? You know what I mean? Like, it's such an interesting choice. And then it doesn't even resolve to the 1 like you might expect it to. It goes down to the minor 6 chord, to the 2 chord, to the 4. For a song in E flat, there is a shocking lack of E flat chords in this entire chorus, with the exception of one place. I'll show you where that is. So we get this, 5 chord over its third, 6, 2, 4. We repeat that. D in the bass, down to C, up to the F, climbing up to the 4th, and then we get the classic line. That's so perfect. So perfect. Start from C minor, walk it down. Keep it on C minor, but lower it. Here we can literally keep the C minor chord because the A that we use in the bass is now what changes the chord from a C minor to an A half diminished. And then even if we, I'm just realizing this now, even if we keep that C minor yet again when we move to the A flat, well now it's just an A flat major 7 chord. Same thing in the right hand. Walk down the bass line. It works for all of it. And now finally we get our only 1 chord in the entire chorus. And it's not even a 1 because it's over B flat. So it's doing that thing we talked about where it's not actually resolved. 4, 4. Leave it open on the 5. It's just completely brilliant. Completely brilliant. Elton John was clearly a master at writing those ultra catchy lines. You know, I mean, it reminds me of the part of Tiny Dancer too that's so popular.
Hold me closer, tiny dancer.
Right? Right? I don't know, you can kind of hear how they have a similar catchiness to it, a similar quality, I feel like, but it's just the brilliance of Elton John, man. Can't believe we've never talked about him on the channel. Well, that changes today. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about this one. I could probably spend more time on it, but this video is already too long, so we're gonna call it there. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Month of Music. We'll see you back here tomorrow.